The year was 2287, and humanity had finally earned a place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. For centuries, humans had been unknown to the wider universe, hidden away on their small blue world called Earth. But now, after proving themselves worthy, they had been invited to join the Galactic Council. This was the greatest moment in human history. Commander Minho stood in the Grand Exhibition Hall of the University of Kethmar on the planet Valaris. This was no ordinary place. The hall was filled with ancient objects and mysterious devices that had been discovered by the Valarans, a species that had been exploring space for over 1 million years. The walls were made of a material that seemed to glow from within, and the ceiling stretched so high that Minho had to squint to see the top of it. Around him walked a class of students from different alien species. Each student believed that their own people were the most intelligent and most advanced in the entire galaxy. The Valarans thought they were superior because their civilization was very old. The Nyrax believed they were the best because they had conquered many worlds. The Zelthar thought they were greatest because they had discovered new forms of energy. None of them had ever met a human before, and none of them believed that humans could teach them anything. Professor Hai-Il was leading the class through the exhibition. He was a Velaran, which meant he had 4 eyes instead of 2. His skin was made of a clear crystal material that changed color as he moved. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chiming through glass bells. He was considered one of the smartest beings in the galaxy, and he was proud of his knowledge. "These objects," Professor Hai-Il said as he pointed to the artifacts around them, "are from a civilization that existed millions of years ago. We do not know who they were. We do not know where they came from, but we know they were extremely advanced, much more advanced than any of us are today." The students gathered around each artifact with great interest. One object looked like a spinning sphere made of light. Another looked like a crystal that produced beautiful sounds when touched. A third appeared to be some kind of measuring device with perfect geometric patterns. All of them were beautiful and mysterious. "How do we know they were so advanced?" asked Sunmi, a young Velaran student with bright blue skin. She was smarter than most of her classmates and asked good questions. "Because," said Professor Hai-Il, "the engineering in these objects is beyond what we can fully understand even today. They knew secrets that we are still trying to discover. These are the relics of a lost civilization, a civilization that was greater than any that came after it." Commander Minho listened quietly as the professor spoke. He walked slowly around the exhibition, looking at each object carefully. The other students watched him with suspicion. They did not trust humans. Humans were new to space, and new things were always viewed with doubt. Some of the alien students even whispered to each other that humans should not be allowed in the university at all. After Professor Hai-Il finished his introduction, he turned to Minho and said, "Commander, you are a guest from Earth. Do you have any thoughts about these ancient objects? Can your people recognize anything here?" Minho smiled. It was a small smile, the kind that a person makes when they know something interesting but are not quite sure how to share it. He walked toward one of the artifacts. It was a beautiful device that looked like it was made of silver and light mixed together. According to the label, it was called the harmonic resonator, and scientists believed it was used for communication across great distances millions of years ago. Minho picked it up carefully and turned it over in his hands. The device felt warm and seemed to vibrate very gently. He studied it for a long moment, and then he looked at the class with a curious expression on his face. "I prefer the older model," he said simply. The words hung in the air. Nobody said anything. The 4 eyes of Professor Hai-Il widened. One of the Nyrax students, who had 7 tentacles, made a strange clicking sound that meant confusion. The Zelthar students looked at each other and shrugged. None of them understood what Commander Minho meant. "What?" said Professor Hai-Il. His voice sounded like he had not heard correctly. "What did you say?" "I said I prefer the older model," Minho repeated. He set the harmonic resonator down gently on its stand and turned to face the class. This is a nice device. It is well made. But humans made something very similar a long time ago, and I prefer the version that humans made. Professor Hai-Il stared at the human commander. His crystal skin began to glow a deeper shade of blue, which meant he was becoming angry or very confused. That is impossible, he said. This artifact comes from a civilization that existed 3 million years ago. Your species did not even exist 3 million years ago. Humans have only recently learned to leave their planet. You are right that humans are new to space, said Minho calmly, but humans are very old on Earth. We have been there for a long, long time, much longer than you might think. Then you are confused, said Professor Hai-Il, or you are trying to trick us. Either way, I would like an explanation. How could your people possibly make something like this, and how could it be older? All the students stared at Commander Minho. The young Valaran named Sunmi leaned forward, very interested. The Nyrax students stopped making clicking sounds. Even the Zelthar students forgot to glow with their usual energy. Everyone wanted to know what this human visitor would say next. Minho took a breath and looked directly at Professor Hai-Il. I can explain, he said, but I think you might not like what you hear, because what I am about to tell you will change how you understand these artifacts. It will change how you think about where knowledge comes from, and it will make you question some of the things you have always believed. Professor Hai-Il's skin flickered with different colors. It was the most confused Minho had ever seen a Valaran look. Then explain, the professor said. We are listening. And so the human commander began to tell a story that would shake the foundations of what the galaxy believed to be true. The exhibition hall became very quiet. All the students and Professor Hai-Il waited for Commander Minho to continue his story. The human stood in the middle of the hall, surrounded by the ancient artifacts that the Valarans believed were made by a civilization that no longer existed. He walked toward the harmonic resonator again and picked it up carefully. This device, said Minho, holding the object so that everyone could see it clearly, is designed to create vibrations in the air. These vibrations travel through space and carry messages from one place to another. Is this correct? Yes, said Professor Hai-Il. That is what we believe, but we are not completely certain how it works. The makers of this object understood physics in ways that we are still trying to understand. Minho nodded slowly. I understand why you think that. But let me tell you what I know. Humans on Earth discovered this same principle, not millions of years ago, not even thousands of years ago. We discovered it 500 years ago, then refined it 200 years ago, and we use it every day now. We call it sound frequency transmission, or sometimes we call it radio waves. Davin, the Nyrax student with 7 tentacles, made an angry clicking sound. This is ridiculous, he said in a voice that sounded like thunder rolling across the sky. You are lying. Your species cannot be smart enough to discover something so advanced. I am not lying, said Minho calmly. He showed the harmonic resonator to Davin. What you are looking at is based on one simple truth. When something vibrates, it makes waves. These waves can travel through empty space. If you can control these vibrations, you can send messages across great distances. Dr. Ji Wu, a human scientist who had come with Minho, stepped forward. She was a xenoarchaeologist, which meant she studied ancient civilizations and how they developed. The principle is actually much older than 500 years, she said in her soft voice. Humans discovered resonance and vibration thousands of years ago. She walked to a section of the exhibition where there was a small painting on the wall. The painting showed ancient human structures. These are Egyptian temples, she explained. Humans built them 4,000 years ago. The walls were designed using mathematical patterns that created perfect acoustics. Sound waves would bounce in specific ways to create beautiful effects during ceremonies. 4,000 years? Said Professor High-Ill. His crystal skin flickered with confusion. Your species existed 4,000 years ago? Much longer than that, said Dr. Ji-Woo. Humans existed for thousands and thousands of years before we built the Egyptian temples. We just did not have the tools or knowledge to create advanced technology at first. But the principle of vibration and sound, we understood that thousands of years ago. A Zelthar student named Kira, who was very intelligent and paid careful attention to details, raised her hand. If this is true, she said slowly, then how is it possible that this ancient artifact is exactly like something humans made? That would mean either you copied this civilization or they copied humans. But we know humans did not come to space until 300 years ago. Exactly, said Minho. That is the question we need to answer. He placed the harmonic resonator back on its stand and walked to another artifact. This one looked like a copper sphere with lines drawn all over it. What is this called? He asked Professor Hay-Il. That is the luminescent navigation sphere, said the professor. We believe it was used to measure the positions of stars and to navigate across great distances. The lines represent the paths between different stars and planets. Minho smiled. On Earth, we made something exactly like this. We called it an astrolabe. A human scientist named Al-Biruni created an advanced version of this device 1,000 years ago. It used the same principles. It measured the same things. It worked in almost exactly the same way. The students began to whisper to each other. Sunmi, the young Veleron, stood up. Are you saying, she asked carefully, that humans independently invented the same things as this lost civilization? Without ever meeting them? Without ever seeing their artifacts? Yes, said Dr. Ji-Woo. That is exactly what we are saying. We are saying that when intelligent beings face the same problems, they find the same solutions. Professor Hay-Ill's skin grew darker. He was becoming very upset. This cannot be true, he said. You are trying to deceive us. You are trying to make your species seem greater than it actually is. No, said Minho firmly. We are trying to tell you the truth. And the truth is that humans never needed your ancient civilization to teach us anything, because we did not even know your civilization existed until today. He moved to another artifact, a strange device that looked like it was made of water frozen in place. What does this do? He asked. That is the temporal measurement device, said Professor Hay-Il. It measures time. It is thousands of years old. We made water clocks in Babylon, said Dr. Ji-Woo. In Egypt, too. Humans used these to measure time and mark the passage of days. We made them 5,000 years ago. The principle was very simple. Water flows at a steady rate. By measuring how much water flows, you can measure how much time passes. With each artifact that Minho and Dr. Ji-Woo explained, the mystery became clearer. A device for measuring heat? Humans made thermometers in the 1600s, though the principle was understood thousands of years before. A device for measuring weight and balance? Humans made scales in ancient times. A device for focusing light? Humans made simple lenses from natural crystals and glass. By the end of the hour, it became clear to everyone in the exhibition hall that humans and this unknown ancient civilization had discovered the same things. They had found the same solutions to the same problems. But then Minho said something that made the students go completely silent. The real question, he said, looking directly at Professor Hay-Il, is not whether humans copied this ancient civilization. The real question is this. We have these same principles. We have these same technologies. But now, in 2287, humans have made them better. We have made them faster, more efficient, more powerful. Your ancient civilization discovered these truths, but humans have surpassed them. The exhibition hall filled with gasps and surprised sounds. Professor Hai-Il's crystal skin turned completely dark. Sunmi sat down slowly in shock. Davin the Nyrax could not speak. Even Kira, the brilliant Zelthar student, seemed confused and surprised. "That is not possible," said Professor Hai-Il quietly. "I am afraid it is very much possible," said Min-Ho, "and I have proof." Commander Min-Ho opened a small device that looked like a thin, flat stone. This was a human technology. It displayed images and information that floated above it like magic. The Valaran students had never seen anything quite like it before. They leaned forward to watch as Min-Ho began to show them pictures and data from Earth's history. "This is what humans created," he said, showing an image of an ancient artifact. "This is an astrolabe from the 1400s. A human named Nasir al-Din al-Tusi created an advanced version 800 years ago. If you compare it to your luminescent navigation sphere, you will see they are almost identical." The image appeared above the device, rotating slowly so that everyone could see every detail. Then Min-Ho showed another image of the Valaran artifact. The two objects looked like they could have been made by the same person. The design was the same. The purpose was the same. The mathematical relationships were the same. "This is not a trick," said Min-Ho. "This is simply what happens when intelligent beings solve the same problem. They find the same answer." Dr. Jiwoo stepped closer to the students. She held up a book that humans had brought from Earth. "In this book," she said, "you will find records of every major invention that humans created. You will see the dates. You will see the names of the people who made these inventions. And if you compare these records to your artifacts, you will understand that humans created these things independently." Professor Hai-Il's 4 eyes stared at the images floating in the air. His crystal skin flickered between colors as he tried to process what he was seeing. "Show me more," he said. His voice sounded uncertain now, not confident like before. Min-Ho nodded and began to show more examples. A Valaran artifact that measured temperature. Humans made thermometers starting in 1592. A device that measured atmospheric pressure. Humans created barometers in 1643. An object that seemed to measure the strength of materials. Humans made testing machines in the 1800s. Each artifact had a matching human creation, and often the human creation was much newer than the ancient artifact. This meant that humans had discovered the principles on their own, without any help from the lost civilization. Kira, the Zelthar student, began to ask questions. "How do you explain the similarities if there was no contact?" she asked. "How could two different civilizations create such similar solutions?" "Because," said Dr. Jiwoo, "there is only one correct answer to most scientific problems. If you need to measure temperature, there are only so many ways to do it. If you need to navigate using stars, there are only so many methods that work. When any intelligent being faces these problems, they will eventually discover the same answers." Dr. Jiwoo showed more images of human history. She showed the great civilizations of Earth, the Egyptians, the Chinese, the Greeks, the Indians, the Arabs, the Europeans. Each civilization had made discoveries independently. Often, different civilizations on Earth made the same discoveries without knowing about each other. They lived thousands of miles apart and had no way to communicate. Yet they discovered the same mathematical principles. They created the same types of tools. They solved problems in similar ways. "This is called convergent development," said Dr. Jiwoo. "When different beings face the same challenges, they independently discover the same solutions. It happens in nature all the time. Different animals in different parts of the world develop similar body shapes and abilities because they need to solve the same survival problems." Sun-Mi, the young Valaran student, raised her hand. "I understand," she said. "You are saying that the old civilization was not special. They just discovered things that any intelligent being would eventually discover." Not exactly, said Minho. They were intelligent and creative, but they discovered universal truths. Truths about how the universe works. Truths that any civilization will eventually find. Davin the Nyrax, who had been quiet for some time, spoke up. I still do not believe this, he said. Your evidence is not enough. Even if you had all these inventions, it does not prove that humans are equals to us. Minho looked directly at Davin. You want more proof? Fine. Let me show you something else. He pulled up more images on his device. These were images of human technology from modern times. 2287 was the current year, and humans had been working on technology for only 300 years since joining space exploration. But in those 300 years, humans had accomplished remarkable things. This, said Minho, showing an image, is a modern human harmonic resonance device. It is based on the same principle as your ancient artifact, but it is 10 times more efficient. It can send messages across twice the distance, and it requires half the power to operate. He showed another image. This is a human navigation system. It is more accurate than your ancient luminescent sphere. It can calculate positions to within 1 meter instead of 1 kilometer, and it works instantly instead of requiring time to observe the stars. The Zelthar students began to glow with surprised energy. Professor Hay-Ill's crystal skin turned a shade of purple that meant shock and amazement. Over the last 300 years, continued Minho, humans have studied your ancient artifacts. We have tried to understand them, and every time we understand one, we improve it. We make it better. We make it more efficient. We make it more powerful. Dr. Jiwoo added, this is the most important point to understand. The ancient civilization discovered these principles, but humans have refined them. Humans have studied the mathematics deeper. Humans have found better materials. Humans have applied these principles in new ways that the ancient civilization never thought of. Kira began to do calculations in her head. You could see her thinking hard. If this is true, she said slowly, then humans are not just equals. Humans might actually be more advanced than we thought. No, said Minho, holding up his hand. We do not want to claim that we are more advanced than everyone else. We want to claim something different. We want to claim that we got here on our own. We did not need your help. We did not need the ancient civilization's blueprints. We discovered these truths ourselves. Professor Hay-Ill walked slowly around the exhibition hall. He looked at each artifact with new eyes. He was thinking about everything he had believed for so long. He had believed that this ancient civilization was the greatest civilization ever. He had believed that all modern species owed everything to them. Now, he was learning that the ancient civilization was just one example of how intelligent beings discover universal truths. If this is true, said Professor Hay-Ill quietly, then everything I have taught my students is wrong. I have told them that the ancients were superior. But you are saying that any intelligent being would discover the same things. Yes, said Minho. We are saying that intelligence is not about being special or unique. Intelligence is about solving problems. And when you solve problems, you find answers that are true for everyone. Truth is universal. Any civilization that is intelligent enough will eventually find it. The students looked at each other. Some seemed upset. Some seemed excited. Some seemed confused. But all of them were thinking about what Minho had said. They were beginning to understand that their understanding of the galaxy was not complete. They were beginning to understand that humans were not just a new species trying to copy the ways of older civilizations. Humans had discovered truth on their own, and they had made those truths even better. The exhibition hall felt different now. The air seemed heavier, as if the words that had been spoken were pushing down on everyone's minds. Students who had entered the hall feeling superior and confident now sat quietly, trying to process what they had learned. The ancient artifacts that had seemed so mysterious and powerful before now looked different. They looked like what they actually were, not blueprints from gods, but the work of a civilization that had discovered what any intelligent being could discover. Sun Mi, the bright young Valaran student, stood up from her seat. Everyone turned to look at her. She was known for being brave and asking difficult questions. Her professors respected her, and her classmates usually listened to what she said. She took a deep breath and asked the question that everyone else was afraid to ask. "Commander Minho," she said, her voice clear and steady, "are you saying that humans created these artifacts? Are you saying that humans are the lost civilization that we have been studying for so long?" The hall became completely silent. Professor Hay-Ill's crystal skin stopped flickering. Davin the Nyrax froze. Kira the Zelthar stopped glowing. Every single student turned to stare at Minho, waiting to hear his answer. Minho smiled, but it was a sad smile. "No," he said gently. "I am not saying that humans created these artifacts. I am saying something different, and I think it might be even more important." He walked to the center of the exhibition hall, and all the students followed his movement with their eyes. "We do not know who created these artifacts," said Minho. "We may never know. The civilization that made them is truly lost. But what I am saying is this: we do not need to know who made them, because humans made the same things independently, and that proves something very important about intelligence." Dr. Jiwoo nodded. "What the commander is trying to tell you," she said, "is that this ancient civilization was intelligent. They discovered universal truths, but humans are also intelligent, and humans discovered the same truths without ever seeing this civilization's work. Maybe humans discovered them first. Maybe this civilization discovered them first. It does not matter. What matters is that both civilizations were intelligent enough to discover truth." Sunmi sat back down slowly, thinking about what they had said. "So you are saying," she said carefully, "that we should not worship the ancient civilization because they were just another intelligent species doing what intelligent species do." "Exactly," said Minho. "Every intelligent being that evolves on a world will eventually discover gravity. They will eventually understand that water boils at a certain temperature. They will eventually learn that you can use sound waves to send messages across distance. These are not special inventions from special beings. These are universal truths that any intelligence will find." Davin the Nyrax made an angry clicking sound. "But this does not make your species great," he said. "This just means you are normal, just like everyone else." "Perhaps," said Minho, his voice calm and patient. "But there is more to this story. And it is the part that matters most." He pulled up images on his device again. These images showed human technology from different times in human history. These are human inventions from 1,000 years ago. These are from 500 years ago. These are from 100 years ago. And these are from today, in the year 2287. He scrolled through the images slowly. You could see how human technology had improved over time. The devices had become smaller and more efficient. They had become more powerful and more reliable. With each generation, humans had taken the basic principles and made them better. "This is what humans do," said Minho. "We discover a truth, we understand it, and then we improve it. We make it work better. We make it do more. We find new ways to use it that the original discoverers never thought of." He stopped on one particular image. It showed a human device that looked similar to the harmonic resonator from the exhibition, but it was clearly much more advanced. "Your ancient artifact can send messages across a distance of approximately 500 miles, said Minho, reading from the information next to the image. "Our modern version can send messages across 15,000 miles. It is 30 times more powerful. It uses only 1/10 of the energy." The students gasped. Kira's eyes grew wide as she did the mathematics in her head. If humans have improved on these designs so much, she said, then humans are not just equals. Humans are actually more advanced. No, said Minho, shaking his head. You are still not understanding. We are not more advanced than the ancient civilization. We are more advanced than what the ancient civilization created. We have had 300 years to study their work and improve upon it. But we did not start with their instructions. We started with our own discoveries. We came to the same place they came to, and then we went further. Sunmi raised her hand again. I think I understand now, she said. You are saying that any civilization that is intelligent enough could have discovered these things, and any civilization that had enough time and resources could improve on them, just like humans did. Yes, said Dr. Jiwoo. And more importantly, humans did not need help from anyone to get here. We did not need the ancient civilization. We did not need any older species teaching us. We figured it out ourselves. That is what makes humanity important to the Galactic Council. Not that we are the most advanced, not that we have the newest technology, but that we are intelligent enough and determined enough to reach the stars on our own power. Professor Hai-Il had been quiet for a long time. Now he spoke, and his voice sounded different. It sounded like someone who had realized they had been wrong about something important. If what you are saying is true, he said, then we have been teaching our students the wrong lesson. We have been telling them that older means superior. We have been telling them that we should bow to the achievements of the past. But you are telling us that we should look forward to the achievements of the future. That is part of it, said Minho. But there is another lesson too. You should respect knowledge. No matter where it comes from, an ancient civilization discovered these truths. That is worthy of respect. But a new civilization that independently discovers the same truths is also worthy of respect. And a civilization that improves on those truths is even more worthy of respect, because it shows that intelligence is not about being first. It is about being willing to learn and willing to improve. Davin still looked angry, but he was quiet. He did not have a good argument against what Minho was saying. The logic was clear, and the evidence was clear. Humans had not copied anyone. Humans had thought for themselves. So what happens now? Asked Kira. Now that we know these things, what does it change? Minho looked at Professor Hai-Il. That is a question for your professor to answer, he said. But I hope it changes how you think about intelligence, and how you think about the value of different civilizations, and how you think about the future of the galaxy. Professor Hai-Il's skin began to glow a soft yellow color, which meant he was thinking deeply. It changes everything, he said quietly. It changes everything we have believed about ourselves and about this ancient civilization. And it changes how we should treat new civilizations like yours. The exhibition hall was very quiet as the students sat with their thoughts. The artifacts around them no longer seemed like relics from superior beings. They seemed like what they truly were. Tools that showed that intelligence finds similar solutions. Tools that showed the universal truths that all beings eventually discover. And the human inventions that matched them showed that those truths belonged to no one civilization. They belonged to everyone who was intelligent enough to understand them. Over the next 2 days, Commander Minho and Dr. Jiwoo did something that had never been done before in the University of Kethmar. They held a formal presentation to prove their ideas about human history and technology. Students came from all parts of the university. Even professors from different departments attended. The exhibition hall was packed with beings from dozens of different species, all wanting to hear what the humans had to say. Minho stood in front of the gathered crowd. He was calm and organized. He had prepared everything carefully, like a scientist presenting the results of many years of research, because that is what this was. Humans had studied the ancient artifacts carefully over the past 300 years. Humans had compared them to their own discoveries. Humans had found the connections and understood the patterns. "Thank you for coming," said Minho to the crowd. "I want to show you something that we have never shown to any other species before. I want to show you the complete history of human discovery, from the very beginning until today." Dr. Jiwoo activated a large display that filled an entire wall of the exhibition hall. Images began to appear, showing human history thousands of years in the past. The pictures showed ancient humans learning to make fire. They showed humans learning to make simple tools. They showed humans learning to work with metal. They showed humans building great structures and civilizations. "This is human history," said Dr. Jiwoo. Her voice was quiet and serious, like someone speaking in a sacred place. "We have records of almost everything humans have discovered and created. We have written records going back to ancient times. We have archaeological evidence going back even further. We know when we discovered things. We know who discovered them. We know how we discovered them." The display showed a timeline. It was like a long rope stretching from the past into the future, with marks and notes at every important moment. The marks showed when humans discovered new things: fire in prehistory, agriculture 10,000 years ago, mathematics in ancient Mesopotamia, astronomy in ancient Egypt, writing systems, metalworking, navigation, medicine, physics, electricity. Every major discovery was marked on the timeline with dates and names. "Now," said Minho, "let me show you what your ancient artifacts represent." The display changed to show the Valaran artifacts. Pictures of each artifact appeared on the wall, along with detailed information about what scientists believed they did and when they believed they were made. "Your harmonic resonator," said Minho, pointing to an image of the ancient device, was created approximately 2 million years ago. The Valarans believed that it was designed to send messages across space using sound waves and vibrations. Then the display showed human artifacts. Pictures of ancient bells and singing bowls appeared. Then pictures of musical instruments from different human civilizations. Then pictures of more modern human devices that used sound waves. "Humans discovered the principle of sound wave transmission independently," said Dr. Jiwoo. "We made bells in ancient China 4,000 years ago. We made singing bowls in the Himalayan region 5,000 years ago. We made sophisticated instruments in ancient Greece. All of these items used the same principle as your harmonic resonator, creating vibrations that travel through air or water or space. Humans did this all without ever seeing your artifact, because the principle is simple and universal." She showed a timeline for this specific discovery. It showed how humans had improved on this principle over thousands of years, from simple bells to complex instruments to electronic devices that could transmit sound and vibrations across vast distances. The presentation continued for hours. Each ancient artifact was examined. Each one was matched with human discoveries and inventions that showed the same principle, and each section of the presentation included a clear timeline showing when humans made their discoveries and how they had improved on them over generations. A Zelthar scientist named Kira, the same student who had asked questions in the exhibition, stood up with data. She had been working for the past 2 days to verify what the humans were saying. She had studied the archaeological records. She had looked at the dates of the artifacts compared to the dates of human history, and she had made an incredible discovery. "I have been checking the information," she said to the crowd, "and in some cases human versions of these artifacts are older than the Velaran artifacts." The crowd gasped. Murmurs spread through the assembly hall. Professor Hae-il, who was sitting in the front row, made a sound like breaking glass, which meant shock. "Explain," said Minho, though he smiled because he had already known this. "The ancient Egyptian water clocks," said Kira, reading from her data, "are older than what you said was the temporal measurement device. Your artifact is dated at 1.5 million years old." But human water clocks in Egypt are 4,000 years old. They are designed to do the same thing. The principle is identical. She continued to show more examples. The human scales and balance systems that measured weight were older than the Valaran artifact that did the same thing. The human lenses from ancient Persia were older than the Valaran optical device. In almost every case, either humans and the Valarans had discovered the same thing at almost the same time, or humans had discovered it first. "This is impossible," said a Nyrax scientist in the crowd. "How could humans discover these things before our ancient civilization? Your species was too primitive." "No," said Dr. Ji-Woo. "You are making a mistake. You are confusing the date of the artifact with the date of the discovery. The ancient civilization might have made their artifact 2 million years ago, but humans made ours much more recently. That does not mean humans discovered the principle more recently. It means that humans took thousands of years to develop the technology to create a physical artifact." She explained this further with examples. Humans discovered that the Earth was round thousands of years ago, but we did not have the technology to prove it with instruments until much later. We knew that you could preserve food by cooling it, but we could not create mechanical refrigeration until very recently. Knowledge and the ability to build artifacts that demonstrate that knowledge are not the same thing. Sunmi, the young Valaran student, raised her hand. "So you are saying," she said, "that humans knew these principles were true even before they could build devices to show them?" "Exactly," said Minho. "Humans understood vibration and sound long before we had the technology to create a harmonic resonator. We understood the motion of stars before we had tools to measure them precisely. We understood that temperature could be measured before we had materials to build a thermometer. We understood these principles because we used logic and mathematics and observation of nature." A young Zelthar student asked, "But if you knew these things so early, why did it take you so long to develop the technology?" "Because," said Dr. Ji-Woo, "knowledge and application are different things. You need knowledge, yes, but you also need materials. You need tools. You need energy. You need time and resources. Humans had knowledge long before we had everything else we needed to turn that knowledge into artifacts." The presentation showed this clearly. It showed how human understanding had grown over thousands of years. But the ability to create advanced artifacts had only developed in the last 500 years, as humans developed better materials and better tools and better understanding of physics. "The real point," said Minho as the presentation came to an end, "is that humans did not need the ancient civilization to teach us anything. We did not need their blueprints or their instructions. We figured out the fundamental truths of the universe using our own intelligence and our own experiments and our own observations. The fact that we came to the same conclusions as another civilization simply proves that these are universal truths, not special secrets, not gifts from advanced beings, but fundamental laws of physics and mathematics that any intelligent species will eventually discover." Professor Hai-Il stood up slowly. His crystal skin glowed softly. "This evidence is clear," he said to the assembly. "And it is true. I have verified parts of it myself. The humans are correct. We have been wrong about many things. We thought the ancient civilization was superior because they were old. But the humans have shown us that intelligence is not about being old. Intelligence is about understanding truth." The assembly fell silent. The evidence had been presented. The truth had been shown. And now the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again.